Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our webinar Wednesday. Thank you all for joining us. I hope you're having some good weather. It's nice here in Fargo today. It's probably going to be in the 80s, so maybe get those shorts out today and go outside and have some fun. Anyway, we're excited today to have Stacy Winter from purchasing to talk about contracts. But I first want to give a little commercial for next week. Next week, we're having another webinar Wednesday on the 29th. It's going to be about surviving your county fair. And we have Aspen and Laney and Terry Helgo and one more person doing that next week. So it's a group project for next week. They're going to be talking about surviving the county fair. And then May 20th, Samantha Lawman is going to be talking about your achievement days and kind of working through the mechanics of that. So stay tuned for those two, the 29th of April and May 20th. So I'll be sending reminders for that as well. So look forward to that. And I'm just going to turn it over to Stacy here in purchasing the NDSU to talk to us today about contracts.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, it's like I said before we got started here. It's everybody's favorite subject because they don't want to deal with it. It's never anything quick because you're not allowed to sign off on it, or you can just sign it off, send it back to the vendor, and be done. But if I get a hold of it, then if it's our contracts, it's quick. If I have to send it to legal, or then you get the software thing involved too. So it's like, and I have to tell you now before I start, I was having a conversation yesterday with some people from IT and from accounting, and they're not even sure what the policy is right now for software because it's all over the board. The thing that they think is the easiest thing, it's no cost, so it should be no worries, right? And some of those have the most damaging stuff in them. So um, Matt Hammer, our legal counsel, said even though they're no cost, he makes sure he still goes through those because they could be the most dangerous ones. And so it's just you never know what's going to catch you. But hopefully today I can tell you what is going to catch us if it's something that comes up in a contract that we just cannot agree to. And towards the end here, I'm going to go through and stop me anytime with any questions. But um, the first thing I want to let you know is our policy 712 is what tells us who has signing authority. And really, I have pretty much more signing authority than anybody else at NDSU. And so it used to be before we had DocuSign and before it was so easy to have electronic signatures, I would actually travel with a printer sometimes. And so, and then it got to the point where now all the hotels had their business centers. And so you could go in and you could use their computer or their printer and stuff. But then it got to be where everybody put in FedEx and UPS. And so if I'd go down to work, it'd be like $16 for 12 minutes of work. And it was like, that's not worth it. So between DocuSign and electronic signature, much easier for me. So if you ever see that I'm on vacation and call and say, well, how am I going to get this signed? Don't worry, it'll get signed because I hate for them to pile up. So I sign when I'm out of the office. I know that there's not a lot of options to get something signed. My boss, Lisa, in accounting will sign if I send something to her and ask her to sign, but it's very rare that that's needed. So signature authority, and what it says is as far as there's a few people that have some signature authority, the state forester has a lot, they work with a lot of emergency situations with the firefighters out there and stuff. And so he's got it. Research has signature authority on grants and stuff, but all of the real other contracts that we get, either whether it's internal, our CSAs, or external, coming from, like somebody mentioned a fair or whatever, some of those contracts that you have, those are the ones that I sign off on. And like I said, it's funny because you guys have some of the smaller contracts, maybe it's meetings, maybe it's hotels, maybe it's somebody doing catering for you, and they have some of the worst language in them. And so people just think, well, I'm just going to quick sign off on this. Well, that's usually the stuff that we don't want to sign off on. So just to let you know that please don't use the reason that it's going to take too long to get a contract signed, because I do turn them around as fast as I can. So um, the one thing that when you read policy 712, what it does tell you that if somebody other than an authorized signature is on the contract, it will be non-binding, which means it's not going to do you any good if we end up fighting it for any reason at all. If you are not a person that can sign, it doesn't matter. The contract's no good. So just keep in mind that Contract is non-binding if somebody other than those who have signature authority has signed those. Any questions on just signature authority and signing off on something? Now, once in a while, I'm trying to think of what you would sign off on, and maybe somebody sends and says, "Well, here's the plans that we have. This is what we're planning on." Maybe a quote or something that's not binding you to buy something. Maybe you've been planning a meeting for 3 or 4 weeks, and all of a sudden it's down on paper, and you go, "Yeah, I agree. This is what we want, and this is what you want." Something like that you can sign off on. It's not the legal language. But when you get to the legal language, then we need to make sure that it's somebody that can sign off on those, that's authorized to sign up on them. I was going to quick just start in talking about our contracts that we use, and then we'll move into some of the ones that you're going to see coming from vendors or from other people that are outside of NDSU. So when we have our contracts, and these contracts now are in DocuSign, so if you've gone in and used them at all, very quick, you just go into purchasing's webpage, go into forms, and pull up, and you're going to pull up one of two contracts. You're either going to pull up one for business, or you're going to pull up one for an individual. And the biggest thing, the difference between those two contracts is an individual is going to fill out a W-9, which is going to be their social security number and stuff like that to get registered as a vendor, so we can pay those. And the vendor themselves are going to do the same thing, W-9. Well, they're going to put in their federal ID. So it's a federal ID for a business, where it's a social security number for an individual. The other thing is, if you look at our business contract, it's longer, got a lot more language in it, and it's because it's going to tell you if we need to get out of this contract for any reason, this is how we do it, termination. The biggest thing that's in there is the insurance requirements. And we require our business on these contracts to have up to $2 million in insurance. And so if you're hiring somebody just coming to a speech or to cater for you, they're not going to have that insurance. And so you want to use the individual contract for those people. And if you look at the individual one, and I'm just going to pull that one up real quick. If I have the screen available, and let me find it here.
You should have it enabled.
Okay. We just got to make sure I'm on the right screen when I get it pulled up. I think it's behind. There we go. Let me know when you can see it. Never know.
Yeah, it's not even sharing quite yet.
Okay. I usually think it's me because I never know what to do on these things.
That's okay. At the bottom of the screen, you see the lovely little share button. You might have to hover down below.
I thought maybe you had to do the
Oh, I wish.
sharing.
No,
That'd be cool.
if you hit share, you should be. It says enable for everybody. So
There we go.
Are you seeing my contract?
Slowly it's thinking. There we
There we
go.
I saw it come on there. Okay, let's try this again. It doesn't help that I've got 3 screens, you guys. That's half my problem. And now I lost it acts like there's something on the screen.
you can see the contracted service agreement.
You
The
can.
Contractor.
Wonderful. Okay, so the biggest thing that's going to be the difference here, that as far as I was saying, the business one has got a lot of language as far as insurance and stuff that they have to have. The one that we use for the speaker, if you look at number 13 here, it's a release saying, I know I'm going to do some work for NDSU, but I also know that I have no rights to come back and sue you for any reason. So very simple contract, really easy to put together. When you're going into DocuSign, if you haven't done one of these, the first thing it's going to do is say, who's the contract? Who are you? You're going to enter in your name and your email. You're going to enter in the vendor, and also, I guess I don't know if you guys have to enter mine stuff in or not. Probably. I'm just thinking of when I've had to do them. And then once you kind of send it through, it goes through and grabs all those signatures. Um, and so much quicker than having to send it around to everybody. Language on here is pretty basic, and I'm just going to quick go through the different sections of filling one of these out. Top half here, who are you going to hire? Make sure that if you're going to hire somebody, and this is an issue that we have sometimes, is you're going to hire a person, but you're going to pay the vendor that this person works for. Make sure that the name of the person, your contract there, is the person, or it's going to be who is going to be in PeopleSoft to get paid. Is it going to be the vendor or is it going to be the person? So you want to make sure you've got that correct on there. And then their email address, that's different. We never used to have everybody's email address, but it's really important for this DocuSign piece of this. And then what we did this last year when we updated this contract is we went through and started asking questions. And by answering these questions, it's going to determine, should this really be a contracted service or should we have this as a temp employee? Should this be an employee? One thing that accounting looks at and I look at when I see this is, especially if somebody comes across with a contract that is maybe 6 months long or a longer contract. And what they're doing, what we've had some people do is when somebody's bought out their retirement and they're going to retire, part of that deal is if when they go through and do those retirement buyouts, is they can't replace that position. And so what we've had in the past is somebody has retired, and then the next week they go to try and hire that person back as a contracted service. Well, you were granted your retirement because your position pretty much was no longer needed, is what was decided. And so HR looks at that and accounting looks at that and says, yeah, that's not a contractor. That should be an employee. And especially if you're trying to replace somebody that just retired. So in the longer contracts like that, we make sure we take a look and say, well, why isn't this going through? As a temp employee, doesn't mean there's going to be benefits. And so we do go through and ask those questions at the top there. Ask if it's a former employee working in the same capacity. And if you say yes, right there, you stop. You just start working with HR. Next question, will they be performing services similar to those as NDSU employees? Anytime you answer yes to these, you're going to stop and not do the contract anymore. Will the worker be paid a flat fee for the job guarantee? So if it's a flat fee versus paid for hourly, you're going to go ahead. I mean, it shouldn't say that. Hourly, we've had some contracts that people still pay an hourly wage for that. So, is the person a current employee? Very, very seldom will there be an employee that gets paid on a contract. One of the couple of times I can think of is we had a person in accounting that they also wanted to be in a play. And so total different than what their normal job was. And so that one was approved. Another one is we had a professor here. She's gone now, but she had her own speaking business. And so she had to get permission to not only work as a professor, but be paid as her speaking business. And so we've had audits over the years where the IRS comes in and runs reports and says, okay, why is this person being paid as an employee and as an individual? So you don't want to see, very seldom do you want to see a 1099 and a W-2 going out to employees. If it is an employee, then if it's not an employee, if it was a past employee, we still ask, when did they work here? And it kind of gives us that idea of, okay, maybe it is just somebody that just left. And we made sure, we got to look at that to make sure that we should be doing it this way instead of an employee. The next part here is you're going to fill out the department that's requesting the information. Again, email is very important. There's a couple things on here that have been added, and I'm actually looking at an older copy now that I look at this. The new one that comes across is actually got a spot on there if you want to do a reference number at the top. If you click on it, it'll generate a reference number. And then it also has a spot to put in a famous project number, which is all facility, so you can just totally ignore that piece. Then the piece that we look at, number 6 here, is how long is the contract going to be? Is it just going to be that one-time thing? And so it just, the start and end dates might be the same. Where this gets confusing is when we use this, say we went out to bid for something, and we actually are hiring a company or an individual multi-years. And so state law says you can hire somebody, but the contract needs to read a 3-year contract, unless we actually went out and put it out there, like maybe a restaurant over in the dining center. We're not going to just want 3 years, so we might do a 5-year agreement. And then after that, you do a 1-year renewal each year. And so this next part you want to put in here, we would actually put in here, the contractor will start on this date and end on this date. And now I'm talking about this, and it's actually part of the business one, but we'll pull that one up. It's where we go in and put in there that it is renewable. We allow renewals for so long. The state of North Dakota only allows renewals up to 10 years. And so at 10 years, if I know it sounds funny because now I've got a Panda Express over in the dining center. I have to tell them you're either out or we have to justify why they're going to still be there. And that's pretty easy when you've got the whole restaurant already up and running. So services, you want to make sure you describe services here. And in this area, we do have people that do stuff for nothing. I mean, they will come and do a speech or something for nothing, but it might be that you've agreed to pay their travel, and you want to make sure that this is where you put this in here. And so kind of you're going to let accounting know the reason and kind of the story behind this, that we've got this person coming in, we agreed to pay for their travel. And you might want to make sure you put in there, when you say travel, flight, Uber, hotel, meals, whatever you've agreed to. Maybe it is just a flight, but you want to make sure that that's in there. Because if you send it through and just have it there, we put in there, we'll pay for their flight, and then you're submitting food and Uber and things like that, then you're just going to slow it down, and accounting will send it back. And I have to tell you, accounting is more and more, and then that's maybe the reason we're having this is when you get a service done for you, you got to have something that's shown what was done and who did it and what was agreed to. Otherwise, they stop and say, we can't pay this till we see a contract. A lot that's happening. Down below, pretty simple. If somebody's making something for you, just, the materials number 12 saying this is something that is owned by NDSU when it's done. Termination language, very small here compared to what is in the business one. And then, of course, at the bottom is where the contractor signs and where my signature goes. Any questions on the individual agreement that we do? No, I'm going to pull up the business one here. I think this one might have and what I want to show you here is just the area where number 6 here, start date and end date. And then is there a renewal? This is where you would put a yes, and you would put in here, yes, it's a 3-year contract with 2 possible renewals or something like that. And I know a lot of the contracts you guys do are just real simple. It's working for, you got a speaker coming in, or you've got this fair going on, or you've got meals or meeting space and things like that. And so this is probably not something you need, but it's there if for some reason we would go out to bid for something. And like I said, look, this is your indemnity clause here, which is very important for us. Insurance is a big part of this one, and this is where we make sure that the vendor has insurance that covers them up to $2 million. It's $500 per person, $2 million per occurrence. So this one is especially for an individual that's just doing something quick for us. This is not the one that you want to use. Confidentiality. Keep in mind that this is all open record once the work is done and stuff. And so if somebody calls and says, I want to see that contract, we have to send it to them, which really freaked me out when I started here, because I worked on the the private side before, and I would never share prices. And when I got here and they said, well, you have to let everybody know what the price was. And I'm like, I can't do that. That's crazy. Um, as far as contracts, this is where I think you guys are going to have the most questions. Contracts coming to you from vendors. And the biggest thing here is the word indemnity, indemnification. And so I'm going to try and explain to you what that is because that's the most confusing term for everybody when it comes to contracts. And so what indemnity is it's a clause that goes in there, and especially for hotels and things like that, where they're thinking there might be damage done or whatever. What they want to do is they want you to indemnify them, saying whatever happens, we're going to take responsibility. We're going to pay for whatever happens, so we're liable for all of it. And North Dakota law actually says it's against the law to do that. And it's not so much that it's against the law to do that. It's our risk management department only will cover so much. So say something happens and they've only got, the funding, they can only cover for, maybe $500 or $1,000 an instance. And something comes across and there's court fees and all this stuff. And so not so much that we can indemnify. It's just that if something does happen, we're not covered for it. And so you think of some of these bigger contracts and stuff that go back, and it's very seldom that a vendor will say, we absolutely will not agree to that. And so what we do then is we have to go back to that department and say, okay, the vendor has not agreed to indemnify, or they won't agree that we can indemnify them. And so if something happens and you get sued, you're responsible to all court fees, lawyer fees, anything like that. And so indemnity is just a no, and you just can't do it. And so first of all, what we do is we either cross it off. We tell them they have to cross off that term. And I have to tell you, it's in more hotel contracts than anything else. And so you think it's the simplest contract that you could just sign off on and move forward. And it's in so many of those contracts. And so what we do is I passed on some stuff that I'm talking about. So this language is in here, this document. What we do is we say we either need to delete that information or we need to put in the following phrase. And it says, each party agrees to assume its own liability for any and all claims of any nature, including all costs, expenses, attorney fees, which may result in any matter may result from or arise out of this agreement. And so we put that into a lot of agreements. When I started here, the lawyer that we had used to say, we will indemnify you per North Dakota law, which says we're not allowed to, the North Dakota law says we're not allowed to indemnify. Matt, our lawyer now, says that's not true. It's not, because of the reason I said, it's not so much that we're not allowed to indemnify, it's just that risk management will not cover any of the costs if something happens. So you'll be finding yourself a lawyer and finding plane tickets to whatever state you agreed to. The other thing this one I've been told is not a deal breaker, but vendors are pretty quick to agree to it. And when a contract comes across and it says, this is per the laws of New York or per the laws of South Dakota, we cannot agree to somebody else's law. And so the biggest thing we look for is indemnity and crossing off the state and putting in North Dakota law. And like I said, actually both of those are in contracts more than you would think, and especially the simple contracts. For that, it's funny that you guys asked to talk about contracts. The state risk, or the Attorney General, just put out a new report on writing contracts and contract language, and it was last done in 2018, I think, and it was 56 pages. It just came out last week. It's 218 pages. So what we are touching on today as far as contract is so minimal as far as things like that. They cover everything from construction to you have to have, if it's over 400,000 or 4,000, you have to have a contractor license. Certain types of contractor license, what they're allowed to do, what you can cite for, just different things like that. So when you talk about contracts, it truly is a huge area that is really hard to understand if you're not a lawyer. So I send a lot of contracts. I've said I got to look at my list. 3 contracts this morning up to legal so far. So I trust me, I don't sign them all. I trust them and I send them all up to them. What I can or what I can't cross off. We talked about earlier just the contract language that you guys have, and I was saying it's great language, because where it really gets confusing is when you start giving out the things like gifts, or try and determine the thing that really confuses people is, when do I have to have a contract and when I don't. And so I could say to you, do you have and our research centers are good ones for this. They have maybe they have a plumber or somebody that comes out multiple times a year and fixes things or replaces things or just does things like that. And so they have a contract in place, and it's up to that $10,000. It's in place for the year, and so they can call, and then each time they go to pay, they just attach that contract. So now all of a sudden they've got a plugged sewer line or something, and they call the plumber, and they come out and fix that. And accounting says, well, I need a contract for that. And it's like, well, they're just doing their job. It's a plumber. They're just doing their job. Here's the invoice. Please pay it. And so that's when it gets really touchy, is when do I, so now if I walk into a store, if I walk into a plumber shop and buy some plumbing supplies, do I need a contract with that same vendor? So it gets really confusing as to when you have to have a contract and when you don't sometimes. And so just ask. That's all I can say. Just ask, and if you don't know, and if the vendor will sign off on it, the vendors get tired of us asking for these contracts too. I know they do it. It's like, I had one this morning, our safety office called and said, these people do our abatement all the time. And now I sent over, they came in for a special thing, and so now county wants a contract. We've got an annual contract, and so I said, just attach the annual contract. It's tough. But they are, their training is, if you're doing a service, we want to see a contract. We need to see something. So, what questions do you have as far as what are you seeing, or what are you getting told that you have to have contracts for? And, are there issues with, getting contracts back, or what could I answer there?
Stacy, this is Carla Mickle. You do a lot of them for me for 4-H camp, and I really appreciate that.
Yep.
We have quite a few that, folks that come up and work for a few days, and we pay them like per day and that kind of stuff. And
I used to run the Y camp, by the way,
oh, okay, great.
back in another life. So I know what it's like to work with camp. Yeah.
Okay. So we have quite a few set up with you through, for 4-H camp. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then probably a lot of individual ones versus business.
yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I would think so.
Yeah, I have one that I'm trying to work on with Eric right now, to pay a vendor that put up a shelter for us up at camp. And I did that one a little bit backwards, but learning
Oh.
lesson. So thank you so much.
Yep, and it is truly, sometimes it's backwards, because now all of a sudden you've got everything done. Vendor wants their money, and accounting says, where's the contract? And so then you start over and you go, but the work's already done.
Yep.
And I know that it happens all the time. So if you ever do a requisition, and I don't know how many of you, you're not spending over 10,000 a lot, but if you ever do a requisition and it's something you've already ordered, just put on there confirming. That way we know we aren't going to reorder something for you. So that's something there. But yeah, if sometimes you just got to work backwards to get the right paper. paperwork in place. What other questions?
Stacy, this is Kurt Freilich in Dickinson. So I have multiple scenarios type issues where you can help maybe explain some things.
Sure.
First one, we want to hire a clinician to put on a workshop for 4-H youth on showmanship skills fitting. The local committee has decided of who this individual would be. They are going to charge a registration fee for people to attend this. The registration fee will cover a noon meal that might get catered in. It will also cover the cost of the clinician that would be brought in.
Okay.
Okay, is there any requirements to do something like that with contracts?
Well, you're gonna deposit all. You're gonna get your registrations, and you're gonna deposit those, and so that'll be money coming in. But you're gonna turn around and use that money to pay out your contracts, and so really is to make sure you're funding.
The deposits probably will not go to NDSU. It'll probably go to a 4-H council type checking account.
Okay.
Which
And
does
you know
not.
what? I really don't care what you're paying, where you're paying out of. Because that's up to you when wherever you've got your money and wherever you're approved to pay out of it. And so, yeah, so what you need to do is you're gonna need is the pay for this person based on how many registrations you have or anything like that?
The person would probably say, "Hey, I'll come in and do it for $500."
And maybe
Plus,
travel or maybe not
yep,
travel or
plus travel.
Yep. Yep. And so just in that individual agreement there, you put the dates in there. One thing you might want to be leery on that, but is it going to be during the summer?
Yes.
And so some contracts that we have, especially for students here when they bring in entertainment, is to make sure that and it doesn't necessarily have to be the weather, but if for some reason cancellation, talk to this person and say, okay, if for some reason we have to cancel, can we just cancel and be done? Or they may say, I want you to put in there that we've got the right to reschedule. Or maybe they're going to say, I'm not going to reschedule, but you owe me 25% for keeping my schedule. Because now it's just like a hotel when you go in and book, 40 rooms for a week. And then they've turned away all these people for 6 months. And then you get to your meeting time and go, yeah, well, we don't need it. Something happened. And so just by holding the spot open, they might come back and say, well, if for some reason this gets canceled, I need 25% of it, even though I don't do it. And make sure that's all in there. The other thing that is you're going to really want to watch for accounting is if there's a down payment. And a lot of your down payments for your hotels and your meals and things like that, if it's in the contract and if I've signed off on it, you can go ahead and do down payments. But that's one thing you might keep in mind for these contracts.
I guess I'm going to go back to the scenario. NDSU will not pay any money. The local people are going to take care of it through the registration fee. There is no check would be ever cut by NDSU to this particular individual. So then the question comes back to are these contracts required for that type of a scenario?
Well, I think, Stacy, correct me if I'm wrong, this is where the gray area comes in, where Kurt's an excellent conversation, because in an indirect way, 4-H, all entities, whether it's a club doing the contract, it's a council doing the contract, it still is part of NDSU because of the land grant university and our authority down. So, Kurt, in a situation that you contract out this amazing clinician, something happens, he now wants to sue you. It's not going to come to your council. I mean, it will initially, but it will come back to NDSU. And so we will be the people responsible at the ultimate level And so I think that's where we're starting to think about the whole risk management piece and signing these contracts. While, like you're saying, that your 4-H council is likely going to be the internal external financial exchange, it still is NDSU responsible at the ultimate level, if that makes sense. I don't know if that helps, Stacy.
And yeah, and in any of that information that you would need to put in there, not so much the vendor needs to know where their payment is coming from or all that, but even if it's a memo that you keep um, this is the way this is working, but it's still NDSU is the contracting with the vendor. But maybe you do put in there registration is coming to 4-H or 4-H will be paying this. But yeah, you're right. At the end of the day, your financials are on NDSU books, and so you are contracted with NDSU.
Okay, another scenario that I can think of is I'm going to use a local saddle club, a local horse organization is running the complete the clinic issue. And it's just that we are, from a 4-H standpoint, extending, they've offered to us, hey, invite your 4-H members to this. And we may just help with a little bit of setup, a little bit of promotion. We have no financial ties, but it's open to 4-H members. Okay, what's the response to that? Are we going to have some kind of contracts now in place with that? It's completely not us.
And I go back to my 2 reasons that you want a contract. Actually, I would say 3 reasons you want a contract. One is your liability. And so if you think there's for some reason that somebody could be injured or something would happen, you want a contract because of the liability piece. The second piece is the agreement between what did you agree to? And what do you agreed to do this and you agreed to pay this much and they agreed to do this. And so kind of if you have on paper what you agreed to. And the third is accounting has that story, or as accounting can look at this and know what's been agreed to and know what to pay and not have to come back every time and say, where's your contract? Or why isn't this on there? Or why isn't this on there? So your liability, so both sides know what was agreed to, and so accounting knows how to pay. If it's something that you're just showing up at a show somewhere in town or something, and you're not doing anything and they're not doing anything other than having you come in and enjoy yourself, there shouldn't need a contract.
Did you have another one, Kurt?
Well, I was going to wait, and maybe those
No.
questions might have spurred something from somebody else. I do have another scenario, but I'll give it
Go for it. You
opportunity.
guys have some of the contract. Most of them are, I'm hiring a speaker, I'm hiring somebody to do this work. And so you're right. You're small town. You're doing, it's kind of different. It's more big events you have during the year, things like that. So just go for it.
Okay, another scenario would be there's a local group of people, planning committee that plans an educational forum, which we are part of. The NDSU is part of. The county office is part of. They charge a registration fee. They book a venue to host the event. Probably hire an outside speaker that comes in for one day. They probably charge a registration fee to help cover costs. They probably garner some sponsorships to help cover all costs, food, breaks, everything that could go along with. So at the end of the day, the balance sheet is zero once they pay all of the bills, and it's probably, through NDSU, through our office, we're promoting it. We're helping organize, but
But you're not doing the hiring and you're not bringing in the food and you're not, so it sounds like the contracting piece is on their side. And so you're just enjoying it. Yeah. So it sounds like that's something they're setting up and doing something, it's like me going to the circus. They're going to get the animals, they're going to get the trainers, and I'm just going to come in and enjoy it. So yeah, that's between them. If they ask you to do something, if they ask you to bring in a speaker, and pay for it, then you would have a contract for that. But otherwise, all the other stuff sounds like it's something that they would need to take care of.
the last item that I have a question for you is we have a year-end 4-H awards party type deal. We need to rent the local Eagles Club.
Okay.
And the local Eagles Club charges $150 rental fee just to use the facility, open up the doors.
Yeah.
But then the 4-H, the local 4-H, pays for that.
Okay.
Okay. What about a contract with hall rental?
So we would want to see a contract for that. And these are some of the ones that I said, even though they're small town and they usually have the most stipulations in there. You're not going to bring glitter in. You're not going to do any fireworks. You're not going to tape things all over our walls. You're going to indemnify us, and you're going to clean up the mess at the end. And so there's usually a lot of stuff in those agreements. I've had them that way, or I've had one that somebody just wrote on there. You're going to be here from 4 to 7. And that's it. And both sides sign it. So, but some of those are the ones that have had most language in them. Those in hotels. And the hotels are the same thing because of all whether they have food or whatever, but they're usually looking at it, they've got kids coming in, right? And so they want to make sure that all that stuff is, all the mess or things that kids could do, it doesn't take place. Or somebody's coming in and doing this big party and balloons, and that's one balloons. Some of them don't allow helium. The glitter is a huge thing. Taping things on the wall, all that stuff. Isn't that funny? What they have to worry about. But yeah, it really depends on what their normal process is. If they've got an agreement or not, and if you have to pay it, you got to come up with something to show.
So, Stacey, I have a question that kind of piggybacks on top of Kurt's last question. Let's say they don't have a contract that they've designed yet, and they want to do just what you said. They just want a quick, you're going to be here from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. and we're going to have a banquet. You get it for that $500 amount, $100 amount, or whatever. Is that something that he could send you, or is that something they can upload into the contract so they don't have to maybe go through all the details of something?
Yeah, if it's something that simple, and he can send it to me, I sign off on, more than likely if with my signature on there, you can just submit that with the invoice and have it paid. Don't worry about the other contract, the rest of it. Just you've got something that's kind of a receipt, showing this is what we asked for and we've got. And so something like that you could just use to pay.
So I want to go back to this 4-H issue, Leanne and Stacy, being that it's under in risk liability. How do we handle the NDSU contract that you've showed? And there's no money coming from NDSU. They will not pay. So how do we handle that so that when you get that contract, you can see that it's being paid for by external funds?
Just put that right in there. Being paid by external funds, NDSU and 4-H will not be paying anything on this. And so it's just, you just covered yourself now. You've got an agreement between you and the company, and you're not paying anything, but at least you're covered with the liability piece. We do many contracts at zero and travel. And so it's just really, like I said, a place to tell the story of what's happening. Both sides agree, and sometimes it could be what you agreed to could be 4 pages. Don't be afraid to add that on, just attach it instead of writing all that stuff out.
Does that answer your questions, Kurt?
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. Yep.
And don't be afraid to send Stacy or myself examples and be like, is this acceptable? We can work with Stacy and she can absolutely tell us yes or no.
Definitely. Yep. Yep. Like we said, you pay off of a lot of the contracts that are hotel contracts and things like that. So it doesn't always have to be an NDSU contract.
Leanne, would you maybe be able to share like an example of, say we're paying a judge for the fair. Would you be able to share out like an example of this form and what it should look like?
Yeah,
Or
we can I can work with Stacy to kind of, are you saying like get it out of the DocuSign and use the most current one and maybe plug in some mock stuff? Is that what you're asking for?
yeah, that might be
Sure.
helpful.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
Stacy, if you want to send me the PDF, I can like
Yeah,
put in
I'll
some
send
mock
you,
stuff.
yep, I sure can. I'm pretty sure you can enter stuff into these, and if not, I can go back to Kim here in our VP office and get the ones that you can
Oh,
make changes to.
perfect. A fillable?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
great. And then I'll
Because
run
we
it by
still
you
have,
first.
yeah, the other thing we haven't talked about is when you get into some small towns and stuff, some people don't have work emails. Some people don't know how to use DocuSign. They're deathly afraid of it. And if you just need to take a contract and scan it to me, that works. We don't have to use DocuSign. Whatever works. I haven't used the fax machine for a long time, but I think I remember how. But scanning, just emailing and scanning, that's no problem. I have no problems doing that either.
Wonderful. That's actually a really good thing added. So thanks for adding that, Stacy. I know
Yeah, we get
yeah.
some that just say, I'm sorry, I don't know how to email, or I don't know how to scan, or I don't know how to do DocuSign. So
And I've been
whatever
working with
works.
Stacy for a really long time, and she is so prompt on anything. I just encourage you
I
not
hope
to
so.
wait until last minute to get your contract signed. So if you need something next day, like let's make sure we're planning ahead so Stacy has time, at least a 3-day minimum, to look at it in case there is something that's a little bit
I have to
wonky.
tell you, I'm a freak about having emails in my inbox. I don't want to have anybody hate me, but right now I've got my email blocks. I don't know if you have it, but it's focused emails and other emails. And so if I get rid of my other emails right now, I have 19 emails in my inbox.
Wow.
And that's just because we've been on this call. And so it's like I don't like leaving emails out there because that means somebody's out there waiting for me to help them. And so just
You're
gonna
very good at what you do, Stacy. We
I hope
appreciate
so. Thank you. Thank you.
I just wanted
Take
to,
care of my customers.
Megan Big got her question answered. If we don't have any language for a contract, is there a simple contract you can share for them to sign off on?
Usually our ones our single one for individual works. And you're welcome. I was going to say that earlier is you're welcome to use the individual one for a company. There's a lot of companies that are individually owned and they don't have the insurance like we talked about. And so they probably need to use the individual one to sign off on instead of the business one. And that's no problem. The one contract that we did talk about, and I'm going to take about 1 minute to talk about it, and we use it about 2 times a year, and that's why I'm not going to talk too much about it, is the non-alien one. It always sounds like I'm talking about Martians or something, but what that one is, if you for some reason have somebody from outside of the country and they're going to do some work for you, we've had people come in and do 2-day sessions or something. What it has to, and there's very specific questions at the top of it. Are they going to be here for less than 9 days? They have to be here for less than 9 days. Do they have their visa? Are they working for any other company while they're here? And the answers all have to be certain way for those to be able to use that. And it has to go through our international programs to be vetted to make sure that everything is okay. And like I said, we do 2 or 3 a year. And so it's out there if you ever need it, but more than likely you'll never, ever need it for any reason.
We still appreciate you mentioning it. I do have
Yeah.
another question from Megan Big. do you have any guidance or maybe some advice if you have a small town vendor that just is super scared to actually give you an invoice? I've actually seen this. Carla's actually working on this too, in terms of like sometimes a vendor doesn't even know how to maybe detail everything out. They just want to give you one giant number, where sometimes we actually need the details of what all is
Right.
accrued into that
Now, do
financial.
you use the banquet form to be able to pay for certain meetings and stuff? Do you have to use the banquet form to say these are the people that were there?
When we're using NDSU funds, yes, but not when we're doing 4-H Foundation or 4-H Club funds.
Okay. My suggestion is if when you get those vendors that just can't and you have to do that, go into Word, type in how do I make an invoice? And it'll show you can put your logo on there, you can do whatever you need to do, and then just have them sign off on that. But it's pretty simple to just make an invoice.
So
Yeah,
Megan,
or
I think
I'm sure they get some of these little tiny receipts that come off of, old cash registers and things like that when it's small town cafe or whatever it is. But yeah, um, go in and you wouldn't have to do it that often, so it doesn't look like you're, out there making invoices for vendors. But if that's what you need to get the detail on there, do an invoice and have them sign off on it.
Megan, does that answer your question? Are you looking for a little bit more guidance on that? She's still on. She might have left. Oh no, she's on it.
She's on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
I was having issues on the previous call, so that's why I was typing. So I have resorted to making invoices for these. It's the senior citizen. So in this case, I'm dealing with an early 90-year-old, and she has just threatened me, I'm not letting you use the senior center anymore. So I have come to terms with that, but I've got others that are in a similar situation, like working with the Legions, that I'm just nervous when I give them a contract. And I did miss the first 20 minutes of this call.
Oh, okay.
I was on that other
Yeah.
meeting. So I will
And
watch the
we
recording.
just started talking about that not everybody knows how to do, uses a computer or uses DocuSign or anything like that. So, print it off, write it in, do whatever you need to do and just have them sign it and,
Yeah.
scan it back for signatures or whatever. Or like we said, if it's something like that where it's a meal or something you have to take the contract with and have them sign it right before your meeting or when you're all done and just write in everything that you need to get paid. Some of those you just gotta, doesn't happen that often, but it happens. So you just gotta do what you can to take care of it.
Megan, if you need help developing a mock something where all they have to do is plug something in, I'm happy to help you with that.
Okay. And even I'm willing to plug it in. It's just change is hard.
It is. It is.
Well, and you know what? When you get so old, why do you have to change anyways?
That's yeah.
Just for that one meeting? No, sometimes I send out, I help Carrington Research Center with their contracts. They do about 100 a year of just all the businesses that come in and do things and stuff. And out of that, there's 20% that just say, and it is a small town. We just don't do that. No, we don't do that. I don't understand it, and it's just not going to happen. So you got to do what you can. If you still want to use that vendor, if you need them, you just do it their way. Just have to. It's quicker our way, but oh well.
These are great questions. What other questions do you guys have? Stacy is the director of purchasing. She's the end all know all, so she's the one to ask.
I try. Trying to think anything else on other contracts. Like I said, the biggest thing is indemnity and I don't know. Do you guys book hotel rooms a lot, or is it just more meeting and food?
A lot of times for some of the state events, we'll book different blocks of rooms like you discussed earlier. We'll definitely contract out different vendors for food, things like that.
So you've had enough experience as far as working with the hotels to make sure you don't miss that deadline to take care of those rooms and not get stuck with empty rooms.
Yeah,
We have a department on campus. I won't mention them, but probably 10 years ago, and it was like $15,000 they had to pay for rooms that the attrition, they didn't take care of it. And so, yeah, that hit the paper, and so you want to be careful as far as what you agree to. Not so much what you agree to, just watch your deadlines.
Yeah.
You know, if the hotel says we got to know by this, or at least reduce your number by this date. But yeah, that one was not fun for that department.
I can imagine.
Hmm.
And just, I think the rule of thumb, and we had a wonderful county that kind of generated why we're doing this amazing Webinar Wednesday with Stacy, that was approached to sign a contract. And they were basically like, well, this is 4-H, you guys got to sign this. And so it just really was a good opportunity for us to set the stage, and Stacy to give us some wisdom on just anytime you're asked to sign something, definitely bring it by Stacy, my office, related to 4-H, so we can look at it.
Yeah, or call me. No,
Yep,
that's no
call.
problem.
Yeah.
I do have a quick question for you guys, because now one of my questions is for Lynette. Is Lynette over your whole area, the Lynette
Correct.
flag?
Yes.
Does anybody ever ask you guys to do inventory and report inventory to like State Fire and Tornado for the offices outside of NDSU that are on campus? Do you do any inventory at all?
This is Megan from Steele County, and the auditor, and I did this over in Griggs County too, but the auditor of the county will ask us to do inventory.
Okay. That helps. And then my other question is, so State Fire and Tornado, the inventory that is done for that, and most of you are not in an owned building, right? We don't own your building, you're probably renting. And so we're not concerned about the building. But if something would happen and so you lose everything, how many items do you actually have in your office that are over $10,000?
I will say in
Not
my
a lot.
office, none.
Okay.
Nothing.
And so then if I'm just thinking about my argument when they come back and say we have to have all these people do inventory. If their deductible is already at 10,000 and you don't have things that high, so why are we wasting our time doing the inventory, right? That's what I'm telling them.
I love it.
The other question I have, a real quick one, I'm waiting for Lynette to call me back. The other one is when you get a new office space, who approves that? Does it go up to like a Greg Lardy and Egg, or is it Lynette's the one who approves those offices?
There's a combination of both. So like in Carla's situation, we've got 2 of my employees and then 2 district directors and a few others in a rented building in Bismarck. And that contract, I think, should have gone to you, actually.
Yeah. Yep.
So.
That's what kind of triggered it. And then somebody else, actually the inventory question, somebody in one of the offices said, so what happens if we get a tornado and we get wiped out? Who's going to pay for that TV? And it's like, well, do you guys take an inventory? And I thought, well, if the deductibles doesn't even cover it, why waste the time? So we'll figure that one out.
Interesting. Good question, Stacy.
But you've gotten by without it for years, so hopefully it stays that way. Anything else? Anything on purchasing at all? We've got, and I can't see that you guys would do this, but we've got new thresholds, and our thresholds are 10,000. So under 10,000, you can spend. And if we hit 100,000, if we're doing a bid for a software or something big, we have to use a new software called ND Buys, North Dakota Buys, and so that's something to keep in mind. The other thing is if you ever need a state contract or anything, or need help finding one of those, let me know, because there's a lot of contracts out there for everything from car rentals to moving companies to whatever that are available for you.
We so appreciate your wisdom.
Yeah, any more questions? And like I said, I recorded this, and I know a lot of people might have been at Sports South Conference or other things today, so I'll be sending this out hopefully later this week. And because we're right at our 12 o'clock hour, but sure we can stay on a couple of minutes if you have questions. But don't forget, next Wednesday, Super Robinson County Fair, I'll follow the 4th person, is Jill Murphy. And then Carrie Helgo, Lenny Stockler, and Aspen Lemming will be talking about the fair. And then May 20th, Samantha Lawman talking about Achievement Days and getting ready for those. So thank you everybody for joining us. And really, we appreciate you so much, Stacy, for jumping on
Oh,
here
thank
and
you.
sharing all your knowledge and information. So thank you, everybody.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks.